Again, my name is Diana Herbst, and I'll be your moderator for today. Today we are going to discuss and demo enterprise mobility integration supporting enterprise mobility ROI. We do have two speakers today. We have Ty Vandenacker, who is with Critigen. He is Critigen's Lemur product manager, as well as Shri Karthik, who is the Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Innovative. I'd like to give you just a little bit of background on each of these gentlemen before we get started. Ty leads Critigen's Commercial, State, and Local Government Solutions team, providing solutions to utilities, AECs, state and local governments. He also brings 15 years of experience in the mapping and information technology industry across consulting services, cloud IT, and software product companies. Ty's experience is in business process modeling, system architecture design, quality assurance, and solution delivery, with emphasis on delivering technologies to making improvements to the performance of distributed project teams. Shri, who is a Senior Vice President that leads the sales and marketing organization at Innovative. Shri brings strong relationship building skills cultivated by a successful career in software sales and project management, complements an extensive background in accounting, finance, and information technology. His experience spans around customers in customer products, oil and gas, media and telecommunications, F&B, chemicals and life sciences industries. He works with clients from different geographic regions and has several interactions with folks from different cultural backgrounds. With that, Ty, welcome to the webinar, and I'll turn it over to you. Let's get started.
Thank you, Diana. Appreciate everybody joining today. I want to talk a little bit about Innovative and Critigen and our partnership. Innovative is an amazing company. They have built some great tools, mobile tools for using SAP data in the field. And we've been so impressed as we've worked with them with the configurability of their solutions, and obviously SAP is impressed with them as well, as they've repeatedly won awards from SAP for their mobile solutions and providing value to SAP customers. And Critigen is a geospatial solution provider. We have built GIS implementations and GIS applications for some of the largest municipalities, private companies, and governments in the world. We've also been well awarded for some of those, including a global award as Geospatial Solutions Company of the Year from Geospatial Media a couple of years ago. And starting 4 or 5 years ago, Critigen got involved with SAP as we work with our customers to integrate geospatial technology to bring business value to their other business systems. We found SAP was really a key and ready consumer and provider of data that had a geospatial component. As we move into the next slide, we can talk a little bit about Critigen's experience in doing this. We've delivered more than 20 projects where we've integrated GIS and SAP. And GIS, of course, is Geographic Information Systems. It's an engineering-grade tool for managing information about geographically distributed objects, whether those are water pipes or roadways or runway lights, rail lines or rail facilities, oil terminals, any of those kinds of things that are geographically distributed are likely have information about them in a geographic information system somewhere. And oftentimes that's detailed geographic information that's interesting to folks in the field. And we have been working with a number of customers to distribute that information out to the field where it can make an actual impact in the day-to-day work of people out there in the field maintaining, inspecting, and using those assets. We've done that across a number of industries, and I've mentioned some of them: utilities, oil and gas, rail, roads and highways are all industries that have an especial use for GIS, where they've got assets that are spread over a very wide area. As we move into the next slide, we can talk a little bit about how Critigen sees the world and our mission. We really see geography as a key way to tie information together from various systems. All of a company's systems, or certainly many of them, have data that is relevant to a place on the earth. And it may or may not be possible to tie those systems together through traditional primary and foreign keys that we've all heard so much about as we've attempted system integrations. But geography is a different way of looking at it, and a way to view information in the context of other systems. And so as we talk today about integrating GIS and SAP data, especially asset data, think of this Critigen integration and analysis layer as a way to match up the information that may be stored in your SAP asset management system for maintenance and regulatory and financial compliance reasons with some of the data that may be stored in your GIS. And that data typically tends towards more engineering oriented and detailed technical information that oftentimes doesn't make it into an actual SAP implementation or SAP records. There are a number of other ways to apply this as well, and Critigen's mission is really around bringing these different types of information together and presenting them for not only read but for interaction to business users and technical users through an intuitive map interface. And with that introduction to Critigen, I'll hand it over to Sri for a bit more on Innovaptive.
Thank you, Ty. Good day, everyone. My name is Sri Karthik. So I'm going to quickly, give you a brief introduction about Innovaptive and who we are, and also talk about our relationship with Critigen, and how we're integrating GIS into our product portfolio. So we are an SAP Silver partner, focusing especially on mobility as well as user experience solutions for the SAP Business Suite of applications. We have one of the largest portfolio of pre-built SAP certified applications that can be easily deployed leveraging our configurable toolkit, which is called RACE, which is short for Rapid App Configurator Engine. So combining these two elements, we're able to accelerate delivery of mobility solutions to our enterprise customers, and typical implementation timelines are somewhere between 8 to 12 weeks, depending on the complexity of scope involved. As far as our solutions go, they're all native mobility solutions, so built on core technology like iOS, Android, and Windows. And most of our solutions are supported even on a desktop form factor, which is powered by SAP's Fiori technology. And in terms of the positioning of our solution, they're all line of business centric. So the way we market our solutions and bring it to enterprises is based on line of business. So we focus on 5 core lines of business, starting from field service and plant maintenance. That covers the enterprise asset management area, including supply chain, finance, sales, and human resources. Right. For today's demo, we're going to focus extensively on our field service portfolio. So that includes our mobile work order management solution with integration to the SAP plant maintenance module, as well as the industry-specific modules like the IS for utilities, etc. Right. We also will cover part of our round solution, which enables measurement readings and meter readings, and it's part of our M work order solution, which you're going to see shortly. And the other solution where we integrate the GIS functionality is our mobile field service application as well, which is targeted around field technicians that are tied to customer-facing jobs. So those are the three core solutions. To get into some of the details about the solutions that you're going to see today with the GIS functionality, we'll start with the M-Work Order solution. So this particular product it's SAP certified. So all the integration aspects to the SAP backend system, that is your plant maintenance system or your ISU system, is all pre-built and certified by SAP. So it's an add-on. It is delivered in the form of an add-on product and can be deployed through transports in your SAP landscape. In terms of features functionality, it includes all the core plant maintenance functions that you're looking to integrate into any mobile enterprise asset management solution, right? So it starts with the ability to process work orders and operations, to work on notifications, time capture with integration to the CATS time tool in SAP or the plant maintenance time confirmation, the ability to view functional locations, equipment, do measurement and inspection rounds, as well as integrating to your materials management or IM modules in SAP for parts availability. So the key thing would be in terms of to enable the GIS capability to tie into your GIS systems is integrating the core map-based functionality across all these functions that you see on the left. So what that means is you can actually visualize all the SAP objects on a map and drive action from there. From a technical point of view, in terms of deploying the solution, it's very flexible. It's a role-based application that can be deployed on SAP's key platform technology, so be it on the cloud through SAP HANA Cloud Platform or on-premise using the SAP mobile platform infrastructure. It works real-time as well as in offline mode, and the offline is basically seamless where it switches to an offline state based on configuration settings. It leverages your existing role-based access within SAP ECC, and that's something you'll see today part of the demo, right? So a lot of key features, functionalities included, and as far as from a device perspective, it's capable of running on any devices that supports Apple iOS, Android, or Windows 8.1 and above. So those are key features of the application itself. And one of the things that makes us able to deploy rapidly and quickly is the RACE configuration toolkit that is part of the application that is being deployed, right? So what is RACE? Is basically it's a toolkit that deploys on your NetWeaver gateway system, which gives you the ability to configure and customize the application specific to your business functionality. So what that means is you can add fields or remove fields, add functionality, maintain role-based access, all without changing the code base of the application. So it's an easy-to-use tool that you can leverage to align the application and customize and configure the application specific to your business requirements. With that, I'll turn it over back to Ty to talk a little more about the Critigen Lemur add-on and how it integrates with your existing GIS systems. Ty, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Sri. And that RACE is really one of the things that has impressed Critigen, and we share an approach and a belief between companies about the importance of being able to configure and update applications. So Sri will show an example of RACE and how it can actually modify a GIS application running inside of Innovaptive and work order a little bit later. So you can look forward to that. But before we dive into some of the specific points on ROI, I want to give everybody just a little bit of a sense of where this technology is right now, the state of the industry, if you will. Right now, and this is based on our informal polling, we see about 3/4 of our customers using Esri ArcGIS. There are certainly some other GIS systems out there, and there are still a handful of utilities, roadways, other organizations that are not using GIS at all. We've actually helped some of those adopt GIS in the course of them seeing the value of integrating GIS information or spatial information to their asset management. So that's another place we can help, but certainly not where we're focused today. So a significant market share for Esri's ArcGIS, and then as we look towards integrating GIS and SAP, we see some beginning steps, I would say, towards doing that kind of thing. A very small percentage, 15% or less, and I think this number is actually skewed a little bit high based on based on our survey methodology, are actually connecting their GIS and SAP and keeping things up to date across them. There's another set of people that we've spoken with who are similar percentage, about 18%, who have some relationship defined between what's in their GIS and what's in their asset management system. But a full 2/3 of companies out there don't really have any connection at all right now. And SAP offers some approaches to connecting those, GOE and their new Geo Enablement Framework, GEF, and our tools are certainly compatible with those. We can also provide a little bit of a way to get started with that approach as you begin to explore what it takes to connect an SAP and GIS implementation. What I'd like to do now is put a quick poll up. So if everyone could respond to the poll as it's coming up here as to what things are of greatest interest to them, that'll help us tailor the rest of the presentation a little bit. We've got a handful of options here to choose from. Allowing your field teams to be more flexible in choosing work and finding additional work, reducing your error rates as far as field data entry in particular, improving the usability, reducing the training cost of your mobile tools, increasing the situational awareness for managers or for the teams who are out in the field, or just being able to access the GIS information from the organization in the field or in particular offline. So I see we've got some answers coming in. Thank you for voting. Are we ready to close the poll and show the results? Here we go. And these answers are great. They're similar to what we're seeing from a lot of customers that are driving their purchases. This flexibility in work assignments for the field team and the correctness of reducing the error rates, and I see situational awareness came up as well, and that may dovetail some with the work assignments for the field team. So I appreciate your input here, and we'll keep this in mind as we move through the presentation. So we're ready to go to the next slide here. So this is a little bit of a summary of the way that we think about the bigger buckets of ROI, if you will. This field worker productivity management, and we include IT and the management side of this in addition to the field crew management or office type asset management folks. And then information assurance. And over in the sidebar, we've got some information. This comes from SAP with regard to some of the value drivers for mobility solutions, seeing significant improvements in delays and productivity. We got presentable failures getting significantly reduced, maintenance backlogs going down, and a lot of that is by enabling your field teams with the right information. So we'll talk in more detail on subsequent slides about some of these things. Let's go ahead and talk about field worker productivity as we get into the next slide. There are really a number of things that contributed to field worker productivity by integrating GIS with your mobile asset management tools. A huge one is sending them out with the information that they need, and oftentimes that information will be stored in the GIS. By providing them with just with the information in the GIS, oftentimes can make the difference between them being able to complete a work assignment or not being able to complete it. Another aspect of this is showing them additional work orders, notifications, or other activities that are out there and need to be done that may be in close proximity to them. So if they've worked through a day's assignments, or if a new assignment has popped up and it's in their vicinity and they know they've got time to complete it, they can just go ahead and take that on. While the mobile solution provides them with the information that they need to go ahead and do that without having to go back to the office and get the appropriate, be it paper maps or other information that they might need. The mobile tool can provide that with them, and they can take initiative and see those things, or those items can be assigned to them based on knowledge of their location. And then the tools also provide them with the ability to route themselves to job locations easily. A few other things that come into play here are just the simple ease of use, and this goes to reducing some of the error rates we'll talk about a little bit later, but being able to quickly locate the correct asset by seeing their blue dot on their map, the blue dot that I guess Google made famous for their location, being able to see that on a map, see the asset that they're standing right next to and select that. Really makes things much more intuitive, and I think you'll see bits of that in the demo. Although Sri is obviously not standing next to an asset as he gives the demo, so keep that in mind. Let's talk next about management visibility. There are a few things here that are important. Being able to set assignments for work orders and do that geographically is an important way to keep track of who's working on what, who's available, who's in what area, and make sure that they go out with the right information for it. From an IT point of view, this solution that we're offering offers some real benefits as well. Some of those have to do with total cost of ownership, and I mentioned the importance of configurability before. GIS is famous for having frequent releases and upgrades to their platform, and by having a configurable tool, you really eliminate a lot of the concerns about having to update code as those new revisions come out. So that's a big thing, is being able to upgrade a configuration as opposed to custom code. And we've seen a lot of our customers and others in the market attempt custom solutions for integrating either a real GIS or Esri or Bing Maps, and there's some real challenges with that, especially as either their application gets upgraded or the mapping tool sets get upgraded. Also, having a real Esri ArcGIS solution that gets integrated into the application provides some real advantages from an IT standpoint. There's no, there's no additional system. Maybe it's a Google Map or a Bing Map or another retail grade mapping solution that has to be managed by IT. Also, it provides the advantage of the end users working with the real GIS data, and there being security and other things that all those models extend out to the mobile client. It also reduces the load on the enterprise GIS architecture and really minimizes the amount of processing that has to happen. If you can imagine 300 mobile users trying to access the enterprise GIS at 8 a.m. every morning and try and get the information they need, you can imagine how that would quickly become a burden and potentially prevent the folks whose job it is to manage and update the GIS from being able to do their jobs effectively. So our solution helps address those issues as well, and manages the device requirements as far as storage goes. So a lot of advantages in terms of how we manage GIS data as it gets out to the mobile device, and how we help manage the field work as a result. So let's talk quickly about information assurance. This is increasingly important as utilities and really all the industries that we're talking about today have some pretty significant regulation. And so having good information is really important. And anecdotally, I can share with you that most customers that we go to, we find a significant discrepancy between what's in their GIS and what is in their asset management system. And in theory, those two systems should have the same assets, but in practice what we see is that over time there's a divergence that evolves. And sometimes that divergence is a result of communication between departments. But oftentimes it's a result of faulty field report maintenance reports where there's a report of an asset being replaced, but maybe the field tech fat-fingered the ID of the asset as he typed it into the asset management system, and so that didn't get reported back correctly, or it created a duplicate asset. So this really helps keep those information systems in sync and be reporting consistent data to regulatory agencies and others, including finance. It also, as I started to mention before, helps a field tech to go and find the correct asset that they're looking for, the correct location. And Sri will show a bit of this in the demo, how they can go and from the map launch an action on whether it's on a work order or on an existing pole or some other asset. They can actually tap right on the asset that they identify because they're standing next to it and launch the action directly from there. So that eliminates a lot of the current processes we see of either having a paper map where they have to find an identifier and type it into their system, or perhaps they have a completely separate application where they go look up the asset either from their GIS or from some other tool and then enter that into their asset management system. So we address both of those issues at the same time and provide some real value that way. There is another thing that I wanted to take a quick talk about, and that is offline GIS. This is something that a lot of IT departments assume should be an easy thing to do, but in practice it's not. And we talked a little bit about device storage requirements. I worked on a project a few years ago where we were actually building an enterprise GIS for an oil and gas company. And when we started the project, we told the IT department that we needed 2 terabytes of storage space, and they laughed at us and they gave us a quarter of a terabyte. And we called them the next day and told them it was full and asked them for more, and they gave us another quarter of a terabyte, and we called them again the next day and told them it was full, and said, can we please just have the 2 terabytes we asked for? And in the end, the company ended up adding additional data, and we ended up with 3 terabytes of data. All that to say that in terms of typical IT standards, GIS data can get very, very large, and that can quickly turn into needing to use much more expensive versions of, for example, iPads that come with significant additional storage. So we've developed a way to help limit the size of that data, not just compression, but also using some smart business rules and being smart through configurability as to what information actually gets passed out to each of the mobile clients. There's also the potential, as we talked about before, if you've got several hundred mobile users trying to take their data offline at the same time, that can introduce a real burden on the enterprise GIS with some of the out-of-the-box offline data tools that are available there. And so there are a lot of things that aren't really obvious at the outset, but are difficult problems, and our combined solution here have addressed. It's devil in the details kinds of things. Particularly when you start getting into the connection between your SAP and your GIS systems. It's something that we've done multiple times. It's frankly a place where we've come in and provided assistance to companies who've gotten themselves into a pickle trying to do it themselves in the middle of the process. So let's move on now. I think we've talked about most of these high-level benefits, but this is a bit of a bullet list of some of the things that you'll see in the demo that we're going to launch here. In particular, this ability to launch actions, or a lot of people will refer to these as workflows, be able to launch them directly from the map is an important aspect of integrating GIS with a mobile SAP application. With that, Sri, I'll turn it over to you. You can launch the demo and provide any additional comments or context that you'd like.
Great, thank you, Ty. So what you're about to see is the M work order solution integrated with the Critigen Lemur add-on, talking to or connected to an Esri GIS system. So you'll see data from both SAP as well as GIS data from Esri, and how we mash up that data, and how a field technician has access to GIS and SAP information on the fly. So here, this is the launch screen of the application, where I'm keying in my user ID password. So the technician does this once, and because the solution is capable of caching data, it's going to download key pieces of information from SAP as well as your Esri GIS and store that in the device. So you'll see on the top right corner, the offline caching is in process, and that information is downloaded, right? So once the app launches, typical planned maintenance screens there, but what we're going to focus on today is not the functionality of the application, but the GIS itself. You'll see in the top right of the screen, there's a green button, which is basically used to launch the GIS map interface on this application. So once your user clicks on that, technician clicks on that, kind of pinpoints his location based on his current location, as well as the GIS information that's active, right? So first point to notice here is, you'll see that now it's within the native application for planned maintenance. You have your Esri information on here. So these are the base maps. So in this case, we have 2 separate base maps activated. One is the street view as well as the earth view. So you can switch between the different base maps, and all this, what you see here, is all configurable through the race toolkit, which we'll touch upon later, right? So from the base maps to the feature layers. So I'm going to click on the different layers over here. So key thing to notice here is you'll see right on top is information from SAP, and then is right below that is all the information from your GIS system, that in this case the Esri system. So I can deactivate, turn on, and turn off both the Esri feature layers as well as the SAP layers. So I can, and if you need more information from SAP, if you want to activate, let's say, objects for equipment or functional locations, those can be integrated on here as well, right? So you'll see me deactivate the SAP layers that, turn on or off the pinpoints where I have work orders or notifications assigned to me. So what I'll focus more on the integration aspect, where the GIS plus SAP integration, and because that's the key draw of this whole solution, the whole integrated aspect of it, right? So you still have all the controls, the map controls. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to select an area here and look at the work orders in that specific area. So I clicked on that box there. So you'll see now I have work order information from SAP within my GIS, within my map data. So I have actual SAP work order information. It has actual data elements. What is my finish date, the priority text. So all that key information from SAP is readily available. And it's actionable from here as well. And I'll show you that in a bit. So I can see not only work order information, but I can also see notifications if I wanted to. So I'm going to click on one of those green pointers and bring up a specific notification that you can see here, right? So I have the notification. It brings in the type of notification, the date it was created, the priority as well. So it's easy access to data from the map-based interface, right? So now let me start by processing one of these objects, right? So let me launch a notification from the GIS. So directly it's launching this particular notification on the app in the background, right? So now from one screen, I'm automatically brought into the map screen or the notification screen, so where it has all the SAP information defaulted on the map, right? So I can release the notification, so I can take action on this particular notification pretty instantly. So I can release, I can make changes. So if I want to edit the notification, I can click on that pencil there, make changes. So be it updating the status of the notification, changing the status codes, changing specific data elements, adding text, notes, etc. All that can be done. So basically, through one click, I have access to my notification details. Here, what you'll see is I'm actually creating a measurement reading on this particular notification. So I can click on the measurement document, and so if I have to take a meter reading, I'm actually taking measurement and posting this measurement reading in SAP in real time. So this is where it integrates GIS with plant maintenance as well as grounds recording and meter recording capability built into the application, right? So if I want to, let's say take this notification, convert it to a work order, I have one button to push on the notification screen. It creates a work order. I select, so what you'll see here is all my information from SAP is fully integrated. So in this case, plant maintenance data is available. So I'm clicking on work centers. I have operations or activities that I can perform on this specific work order. So I'm going to create a few operations here. I have access to my task list. So based on the equipment, where I am, my location, the equipment, my GIS data, it's pulling in specific task lists. I can select task lists, select basically operations associated with that even, and then go and make changes on these specific operations or activities and post this data to within SAP. So here I can confirm the operations across 3 different operations, and then depending on spare parts needed to address that task or that work order. I can even have integration into my SAP materials management module, so where I can search for spare parts and add new parts or components needed to perform this job or this activity, right? I also have access to attachments, where I can go add in specific attachments and integrate that into the app, into the solution, right? So I'm going to create the work order, and that posts real time into SAP. So I can also, process work orders. If I'm at a job site, I want to look at some work order and actually post time, do time confirmation, or actually work on a job. I can do that as well. So here I'm going to select one of these work orders. I'm going to click on the View button right on top. So it's going to launch the work order screen here. So I have one-click view into the work orders. So it shows me the actions needed. So I'm going to, in real time, release this work order. So it's going to post to the SAP backend system, right? So you'll see the work order has been released successfully. I can go into the different screens within that work order. So I can click on the operations. So I have one operation for a transformer repair. So here what you'll see is I can enter time automatically by clicking the start and stop button at the top. So it loads and records, basically my start time as well as my stop time. Then I'm able to record time on this particular job in real time. So basically what you saw was from the map interface, I brought the operation, entered time. Now I'm going to use parts. So I use one of these parts. I'm going to click on the goods issue button, create a goods issue, which is going to post directly to SAP. So I, enter time. I receive, I consume parts, and then, I have access to all other information here that I need to do to confirm this task, right? And finally, once I'm done, I can go in and say, I'm completing this work order, and I close the screen, and then I click back on my map, and then that brings me back to my screens on the map to show me, all the, other jobs that are assigned to me, and that's pending, right? So what you'll see next is the configurability aspect of the solution. So the screen that you're seeing now is the race configuration toolkit, right? So one of the key requirements that most of our customers and users come to us with, the ability to control who gets access to the GIS functionality. Not everybody in the maintenance department, or not every single technician wants or needs access to GIS. So what you can do is basically, through a modular approach, you can control who gets access to what features. So you'll see part of the race configuration toolkit, there's different features available that you can control. So here there's specific capabilities tied to the modules and features within the application. So I'm going to search for the Lemur add-on, which has been integrated into our solution. So you'll see here I have the Critigen Lemur solution, and then here I can decide who gets access to the GIS features and functionality. So I have a certain user group called GIS that I've assigned it to. Let's say if I change this to a random user group, I'm just going to call it XXX for now, and then save the user group. So basically what I did was I changed who has access, so from a GIS user group to something else, right? So this change is reflected on the application in real time. So if you want to provide access or remove access, so you'll see when I hit refresh, this button that you see on top, the GIS map access, disappears instantly, right? So what that gives you is the flexibility to personalize who gets access to GIS data and who doesn't. So you can basically, in a very scalable approach, deploy the solution. So think about if you have different business units within your enterprise, within your organization, and you want to give access to specific business units, you can control that with this feature and functionality, right? So you'll see here I changed it back to GIS, and then the icon shows up in real time on the application. The other thing that RACE supports is the ability to control the specific fields within the different screens, right? So it's built in a very modular approach. So within each element of the application, so you'll see different modules available. So here you'll see I select my work order module, and then I have a screen that is dedicated for the GIS map. So once I click on that screen, I can define what fields are displayed or hidden on the application. So it's as easy as turning on or off the toggle button that you see here. So if I want to hide specific fields on on the GIS screen, I can do that through configuration with Ray. So a lot of flexibility in terms of how you deploy the solution, who you deploy the solution to, as well as what pieces of information you expose, either from the SAP backend system or from your GIS system, and what information you actually show the end user or the technician that's using the application, right? So this is just some of the high-level features, functionalities, but there's a lot of intricate details that I won't go into it, given the interest of time. But you can even set up barcode scanning if you want to. If you're at a piece of equipment and you want to use the equipment to scan a barcode, so I can turn on barcode scanning on one of these fields to make it scannable, etc. So it drives user adoption, easy access to data across the different elements of the solution, right? So I think that was a brief demo of the GIS capabilities. Of course, there's more the solution can do, and if there's something specific that you would like to see, we'd be more than happy to cover that in a one-on-one session with you guys.
Yeah, thanks, Sri. That's a great demo, and a couple things that I'd like to highlight there is that you noticed that this presentation is obviously being given on Windows, and all the look and feel of the applications were Windows, and when we move to iOS, you see that looks and works like an iOS application. So this is really intended to give a really nice user experience, a native type experience, as opposed to sort of a generic HTML5, something delivered through the web for our field users, which we think is really important for them to be able to use it well, and it's also important for providing offline capabilities, which both the GIS and work order provide. So as we talk about the benefits here, in summary, being able to see your SAP assets and your location and the GIS data together at the same time is a big deal. But then really being able to take that combination and launch actions or workflows directly from that map, directly from the objects, where they're seeing those objects in an intuitive way and seeing their relation, their own personal relation in space to those objects, really helps the users get the right data entered on the right assets, and that's critically important for regulatory and just plain records keeping purposes. That improves the data alignment. It also has the ability, as you saw with the configuration, to be able to change and update the application easily, and perhaps most importantly, to deploy it quickly and get this into the hands of your field users shortly after you purchase it. And the GIS and work order are driven by the same configuration. So when you saw Sri change what attributes are available on a work order or a particular object, that applies not only within the work order screens, but also on the map. So there's good bonding between the two pieces of the application there. And finally, this solution, both work order and Critigen's Lemur map control, do not require our customer organizations to maintain any mobile or GIS development skill sets. And if you've worked with either of those, you know that they're again a little bit more complex than just typical development, and especially GIS development requires a bit more understanding of mapping and cartography than most developers possess. So that's really an important consideration to our customers as they consider whether to try and build their own or whether to purchase an off-the-shelf application. Are they ready to support those kind of skill sets on a full-time basis? And as you might expect, most of our customers answer that question in no, that they don't want to support those skill sets in-house. That concludes the primary content for the webinar. We've got some links and things that we think may be useful to you. There's a white paper published on asset performance with mobile workforce, links to Critigen and Innovaptive websites, and then we will be together at a number of conferences coming up. AME, Distributech, SAP Centric, EAM, and Sapphire Now, all coming up soon. So if any of you are going to be there, we would enjoy speaking with you at the conferences. Of course, we're also available in the meantime to talk one-on-one by conference call or other. So look forward to speaking with you more. We have about 7 minutes, it looks like, for questions. Diana, I'll turn it back to you to take questions and moderate those. Thank you.
Sounds good, Ty. Thank you very much. We do have a couple of questions here. First question that I have came in from David, and the question is if a company has an existing Geo.E implementation which utilizes an in-house integration framework to Esri GIS to maintain the sync between assets in SAP and GIS equivalents, can that be retained and still be leveraged? And I assume he says still leveraging the mobile functionality.
This is Ty. Yes, absolutely. That just makes the deployment faster. Oftentimes, we'll need to work with a company to get their data in better alignment before it shows a quality experience to a field user. But if that's already been taken care of with GOE or GEF, then we can leverage that existing geo enablement and deploy even more quickly than we otherwise would.
Perfect. Thank you. Again, if you need more detail, please reach out to either Shri, Ty, or myself after the webinar, and we'll be happy to go into a little more detail with you. The next question is from Michael, and his question is the solution capable of adding line or polygon SAP work orders through the map?
Short answer is yes. Yes, and I guess the long answer is yes too, but I can demo at another time an example of attaching, for example, a zip code to an SAP object and showing that as a polygon on the map, and similarly with line work, we can show those as well. So yes.
Sounds good. Thank you. Our next question is from Justin. And he says, what type of interface is being used to communicate with SAP? REST web services via the gateway? Shri, I think this one's for you.
Yeah, I can take that. Yes, the answer to that is correct. So we use OData, RESTful web services, through the NetWeaver gateway stack. And so, even the offline capability is enabled through the offline OData store. That's part of the application architecture that's built in.
Great, thank you. Another question that came in says, what are some of the prerequisites for this solution? Shri, maybe you can take that one too.
Sure, yeah. So in terms of, to enable the mobile capability itself, one of the prerequisites is the back-end business functionality being activated, both on the GIS side as well as the SAP plan maintenance side. Once that is available, our add-on pretty much gets installed on ECC as well as on Gateway. And then in terms of the mobile solution, we leverage the power of SAP's platform technology, so SAP Mobile Platform. It's a pretty well-known product, been available for over 4 to 5 years now. And then on the cloud, there's another deployment option leveraging the SAP HANA Cloud Platform mobile services. So those are kind of the prerequisites. Everything else is delivered as the add-on through the Critigen Lemur product or the Innovaptive Work Order product.
Perfect. Thank you.
I'll just chime in from the GIS
great.
side. It's a very small prerequisite, but it's that the ArcGIS server or ArcGIS Online is actually a supported platform as well, if that's where your enterprise GIS data is stored. But those need to be configured to provide data sync-enabled feature services, and once that's done and we can get access to them, then we're off to the races. No pun intended. Maybe it's intended.
Sounds good. Thank you. Swagit has a question. His question is, what are typical timelines for implementation of the GIS and mobile SAP PM functionality? Ty, maybe you could take that one first.
Sure. I think actually the GIS side of that's a bit more complex, or I'm sorry, the SAP side. So I'll let Sri speak to that. I think he quoted 8 to 12 weeks earlier. But from the GIS side, it's within that realm. We can go as short as 3 weeks if, like one of the earlier questioners asked, if those data relationships are well established, then that could potentially be a 3-week implementation on the GIS portion of it. And then otherwise, usually the thing that actually takes the longest is working with a company to make sure that their data is in a good state, and defining the relationships between their GIS and their SAP data. Sri, do you want to talk a little bit more about deployment timelines on your side?
Yeah, no, I think that was pretty spot on, Ty. And of course, yeah, our experience based on past experience, it's typical 8 to 12 week cycle to get everything lined up, the infrastructure set up, and tied across basically a 3-tier typical SAP landscape across the development, quality, going through the test cycles, and finally getting it in production in the hands of the actual field technicians. So it's about an 8 to 12 week process, aligning all the activities.
Thank you. It looks like we have time for maybe one more question. This question is from Shirley, and she says, does this solution impact performance of our corporate GIS Esri system?
The short answer is that it absolutely minimizes the impact, and I referenced a couple of times the potential impacts when you get multiple, you get hundreds of field users trying to sync at the same time, and what this does is create an offline version that's available for those clients, so that that processing happens once and takes that burden away from the enterprise GIS of doing custom processing hundreds of times. That lets your enterprise GIS staff work with and use that infrastructure for what it's intended, as opposed to just processing lots of spiky load from offline users.
Thank you. I'm actually going to ask one more question here. The final question today is, what workflow do I need to create to make data available for my corporate GIS?
Really, from a GIS perspective, this is one of the advantages of this solution as opposed to some of the retail grade or other mapping solutions. It's all Esri GIS, and so there's no new process to create to drop different kinds of files. That's all created through configuration through RACE. So there's no real new workflow. Like I mentioned before, there's a prerequisite that you turn on sync-enabled services, feature services from your ArcGIS data store. After that, the rest happens through configuration.
Very good. Sri, anything to add?
No, I think we're good.
All right, everyone. We appreciate you attending today. And again, please look for the recording of this to come into your email. You can also access the recording on both of our websites, probably within about 12 to 24 hours after the webinar ends. We appreciate you attending today. Thank you.